The Southern Quality Ford Friday Night Blitz continues.
Welcome back to the Southern Quality Ford Friday Night Blitz. And Brad, a lot of exciting games tonight. I'm excited to sort of talk through some of these first up on the slate. Center and Gladewater, a lot of points.
Yeah, the Center Rough Riders have been putting up big points all year long. The only loss that they had was against Tatum early in the season, first week of the season, where both teams scored over 60 points. So they have been scoring a lot. I think a big reason is right there because of Keemondre Horace. He has been putting up a lot of points, scored at least 3 touchdowns tonight. And Center, they're just turning every game, it seems like, into a track meet.
And just on those 3 rushes alone where he scored touchdowns, pretty sure he had over 200 yards rushing. All
long touchdowns. He might be one of the favorites for our Player of the Week, presented by Marketplace Chevy, coming up a little bit later in the week, this next week. And it's like you could see it right here. It's a lot of moves, being able to stay on his feet, and he was a big reason for why they were able to get the win over Gladewater tonight. 41-40, and that's they've now had, I believe, 2 different games that were decided by 1 point. I think the game against Tatum was 63-62, something like that at the beginning of the season. So big couple of wins now out last 2 weeks out of Center, with the big win over Jefferson last week, big win over Gladewater tonight, and tonight, you know, really never really backing down from the challenge and never shying away from a tight game like that.
Well, it helps whenever you have one of these monster games from a running back, because at the end of the day, to sort of be able to say, hey, take us home here, Horace, because you know, maybe there's not a lot of other things working well. When you score 3 touchdowns of 60-plus yards, that's a good night, to just put it simply there. Yeah,
absolutely. And that last one, I believe, was the one that sealed up the win for him. So big win for Center. Now, a team that had been looking to try to find their offense was the Dangerfield Tigers. They were averaging 38 points a game last season. This year, through the first 2, had only scored 24 total, not a game, total. Tonight, though, they do finally find their offense. A lot of it is because of the quarterback there, Zaylen Jeter, able to get this offense going tonight, putting up 35, and they kind of backed off a little bit. It was 28-7 at the half.
Well, Brad, like you said, finding that offense, they've scored 24 points up to this point in the whole season. Blowing that out of the water tonight in just 1 game. It's one of these things, too, whenever you look at those rivalry games like they played last week. They're playing Tatum, they lost the year before. There's a lot that goes into that game. So to be able to kind of settle down, ease into the next game, get your offense going, that's huge for Dangerfield moving forward as we get closer to district.
Well, a lot of these kids have been around. They've played on some of these teams that have made deep playoff runs, so these big games don't really scare them anymore like they might have a couple of years ago. So this Dangerfield team, you know, they were able to kind of finally get their offense moving tonight and get a big win, and we'll see if they can carry that momentum moving forward.
That's exactly what we will look at. Now, Beckville looking to bounce back from that thriller last week. Again, the Bearcats tonight, offense was the word all night long.
Talking about a lot of points.
It definitely applies to this football game as well. It's always good, especially after sort of the way things ended last week for them, to sort of get kind of back on track a little bit this week.
Yeah, that's right. 75 points scored tonight against Maud. That's a big win. I know the Beckville Bearcats, the team and their fans, going to be very happy with this one. So very big win there for Beckville tonight. 75 points. I don't care what team you are. If you put up that many touchdowns, you know you're having a good night.
You got a chance to win when you score 75 points. That's not a controversial take there. And then again, of course, tonight, going to our game of the week.
Yeah, we just saw
a look at Liberty Ilo and Jefferson.
Well, we just saw Emma Kate there in Jefferson. She's now here in the studio, making its way back. And so, you know, you were out there, and I don't know that many people really expected this, especially there, the Jefferson home crowd, to see their Bulldogs lose this way to Liberty Ilo.
No, it's funny, when I was walking in my car after the game, one of the cheerleaders was like very upset, and she was like, what in the world? We just lost to the team that hasn't won in over a year. And I was like, hey, everybody, next week, get them next week, girl. But yeah, people were upset there. Obviously, there was a little bit of a brawl at the end there. I don't know if that had to do with the score on the scoreboard that actually wasn't working tonight. But yeah, crazy game. I mean, Liberty Ilo was honestly winning that game since the first snap. got their momentum going in the first quarter, and they kept that thing going all whole game.
Well, you mentioned Liberty Ilo hasn't won in over a year, going back to the 2018 season. So I think a lot of people, even me, when I was sort of following this game on Twitter, when we were running around trying to get everything ready for tonight's show, a little surprised to see that. Thought maybe that last week's game for Jefferson against Center, I think a lot of people around the state sort of thought that one might have been a bit of a fluke, but now back-to-back blowout losses for Jefferson. They'll have to regroup, but big win for Liberty Ilo. I know they're going to be really happy up in Texarkana tonight for the Leopard faithful.
Well, speaking of being happy, like, what were the emotions? Because after the game, Coach seemed a little, I figured he'd be flying high. Instead, he was, you know, still keeping it kind of cool because of the way the game ended. But what was the reaction from the players? Yeah,
players were super excited, everybody walking around. But most of the coach, I asked him, actually, the players were doing push-ups after the game. And he said that he makes the team do 15 push-ups after every single game. And I was like, I thought that was punishment for the little bit of the brawl. Apparently that's normal. So Coach might have just tried to show, you know, he's disciplining and that a brawl's not going to be all right at a game. But yeah, they were definitely excited. Players, you could tell, were pumped. When the bus pulled out, there was like absolute chaos. I could hear it from my car. So.
Well, and that's what you like to see. You haven't won in over a year. New coach putting in a new culture there, and at least so far, it seems like it is working out for Liberty Ilo.
Working out for Coach Davis and the Liberty Ilo Leopards, that's for sure.
We're happy to have you in the studio for the first time this season.
I'm glad I made it back, guys.
I know, right? It's
55 minutes away? What's that?
That's
nothing.
That's not a drive at all. Well, we appreciate you joining us tonight. We'll be back here really through Christmas. We'll see you next week.